is Ufoma Egbamina, aka Papa Colette, aka Boy Do Good, aka Fine Girls Love Me, aka I'm here for the ladies, aka the music loves me, I love the music, aka I'll do anything to continue to be smooth, never to be caught on fresh.
Never ever.
Ufoma Egbamina. Good morning to you, bro.
Correction. I'm here for only one girl.
Ooh, wow.
She is from Ichi.
Oh, wow.
A Gui compound, to be precise.
It's all right.
Shout out to our chairman, Boniface Ndoko.
Okay, all right. Good morning, everybody. Great to have you join us this morning on Hello Port Harcourt. Congratulations to all your Arsenal fans.
Yo.
Yes.
By the way, that tweet was actually 15 years ago, not 8.
That's when
Burgess's tweet was in 2015.
When I make it, you will all come back to this tweet.
Monday motivation.
Crazy.
Absolutely nothing like that to motivate you this morning.
Nothing like that.
Dude literally, prophesied into his life and said, I will make it. And when I do, y'all will come back.
Not just make it in this club. He wanted. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. But let's get to the very important and very heavy thing before us.
Yeah.
Every parent who's listening to us at one point in time in Nigeria, at least most parents, in fact, every parent, maybe they didn't experience it, but they knew someone who experienced it. It is the challenge of paying school fees, the default. In my primary school, there were some students, some peoples back then who, when they didn't pay, they were brought in front of the assembly and they were flogged. I can't forget that. 5 strokes of the cane. And for every week that they didn't pay the school fees, they would be brought out and flogged. Now we are obviously older. People know better. People frowned against that. And then up until secondary school, even universities, the school authorities have been having a very difficult time in making sure that they are able to get the monies that they use to run those institutions, to pay staff salaries, to pay the laborers and whatever. All those things that you want your child to be able to enjoy in that particular facility cost money. So what means should be employed to get parents to promptly pay school fees? Ufoma, people are saying no flogging, doesn't make any sense to flog a child. We've had stories of students who were sent out of school to stand at the gate. In some cases, some people were isolated from their classmates. What should be done? How can schools get parents to pay school fees?
To be very honest with you, this is a very dicey and difficult conversation.
It's been dicey for the past 2 weeks.
Because I am also a product of the psychological trauma that this can do to someone. I remember there was a point in time in my life where, so as a PWD, as someone, person with disability, ideally, there was a time in this country when we all had the benefit of free school fees till you're done with secondary school. Unfortunately, some states back in the 80s and early 90s cancelled that. I remember that when I was in GSS2 in 1992, or is it 91? 92 actually. I remember that we went for some verification exercise.
Yeah.
I grew up in Imo State, by the way. Went for some verification exercise at the Ministry of Education in Owerri. And at the end of the exercise, we were told point blank that because I'm not an indigene of Imo State, that free schooling does not cover me again. And so from GS2, my parents had to pay my fees, until the end, until the end of my secondary school. But when I was in SS3, I remember that at that time, my dad had started having hypertension issues. And then my mom went on a trade trip to Kanu. She was selling palm oil and some other stuff then. And at the end of the day, she literally lost her whole capital. She lost everything. So it was a struggle. I was in SS3 at the time. I was getting set for WAEC. But because I think it was second term, I couldn't pay my school fees on time. I didn't go to school for about 3 weeks. And in those 3 weeks, I was in science class at the time. My class had done all the
Practicals.
practicals. They had done. There's this introduction to I think chemicals. That table. What do they call it again?
Periodic table.
Was it periodic table? I can't remember again. But yeah, I think it was periodic table.
Yeah.
Until today, as I speak to you, I'm not sure I know how to
identify the periodic table
because I missed
that
class. Chemistry became a bit of a chemistry I was very good at, became a bit of a struggle for me because of missing out
on those 3 weeks.
I think it was actually more than 3 weeks. I think it was about a month. The point I'm bringing up, the reason I'm bringing up this story is to tell you how being away from school as a result of your inability to pay can actually affect you as a student. Thankfully, it did not deter me. Thankfully, I finished secondary school, went to the university, and I'm where I am today. But not everybody, has that mental fortitude to be able to deal with the repercussions. So it's a struggle, Jude. A struggle between where the school, especially if it's a private institution, because the private institution needs the funds to be able to ensure that the school runs. They
pay the staff, they pay the
exactly
and make profit as well.
Of course,
let's not lie about this.
See, the whole essence of business is to make profit. Let's not even kid ourselves. And I talk about this from a place of great experience. I spent almost 7 years at home between secondary school and going to university. And in that time, I was teaching. I was teaching in a private school, primary and secondary school. So I've seen these issues. I've seen it live. How, it can be a struggle for the owners of the school to get the funds to pay us who are the teachers. Sometimes you go 2 months, you've not been paid because school fees have not been paid. So it's I really cannot give you a straight up answer to say this is the best way to go about it.
But let me ask you, and I'm sure a lot of people will probably share the same sentiments, but are you in agreement that punishing the child for not paying school fees is wrong?
I think so.
So flogging a child in front of the assembly,
that's a no. That's a
asking,
no. We're not in the 80s anymore.
Asking the child to stay at the gate, whilst classes are on, is a no.
I would rather you send the child home.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a very robust, and I know it's a very contentious conversation to have very shortly. The government is going to be finger pointed. I know the schools and some of the wicked proprietors are also going to be accused. But what about the role of the parents? All of these and more coming up after this break.
represent the position of Nigeria Info FM. Nigeria Info, let's talk.
Welcome back, 92.3 Nigeria Info. I'm joined this morning by the very amiable and very, very well-traveled Ufoma Egbamona. And this morning we're talking about school fees defaults. It happens, particularly in the country like ours, where free basic education is only available on paper. It has to be said. I do hope the commissioner or the state government and all those in the PEMSEC, in the Ministry of Education, are paying attention. You may want to alert them to this conversation as well. It is a mind-boggling hurdle for many parents to go through. It's one of the reasons why many parents choose to send their children in chalk and whatever it is that they use to teach these children. So, like I said, there are very many aspects to this conversation. There's the aspect of punishing the child. The psychology behind this, Ufoma, had been that when you punish the child will go home and cry to the parents, mommy, they flogged me in school. And that usually would spur the parent or the parent to come and pay the fees.
Yes, that's one argument. And sometimes you say drastic measures need to be taken for you to get
results,
quick solutions.
Yeah.
However, again, like I pointed, using my personal experience, it could be traumatic for the child, especially children less than 7 or even less than 10 years old. That's the one that I honestly would not be able to get. Let's not forget that we're in Nigeria. And things are tough.
Life happens. It could be a two-way street. Here's me thinking, for the parents of children in school, you should have relationships with the proprietor or whoever it is, that the headmistress, that owns the school, especially if it's a private institution, because, like I said, life happens. Sometimes now, even when I do not have so much monies, one of the first things I want to do is pay their fees. Sometimes I even pay way ahead of time. Maybe I just got some maybe free money or some money just come in. I pay way ahead of time because there's a possibility that when that time will come, I might not necessarily have it. But they say all fingers are not equal. Not everybody has that means. So I think we should be able to come to a situation where parents have relationships with their schools or the proprietors of their schools. And if I'm someone, for example, who has a history of paying fees on time, I'm pretty certain whoever owns the school, if there's a term that I'm defaulted, the person who owns the school should have the fear of God, to know that, this particular person is not a defaulter. Maybe something has happened. That's why the person can't pay fees. However, I have to also point out that there are possibly some people who are just chronic debtors. Human beings.
Some people are chronic debtors.
I think we put it as chronic debtors. I think it puts it like some human beings are wicked.
You could say that, and I would not have qualms with it. Some people, it's not like they do not have. They just do not want to pay. Or they want you to get to that tail end when it gets to examination time and your child is being excused from writing the exams. That's when it would. In fact, some will even go to the point of not even paying that term, the next term. And if it's a private institution, you begin to wonder, how will they be able to sustain whatever it is, the quality of the school? Because if we're also being honest, quality of education it's terrible in Nigeria as we speak. Yes, we have pockets of good schools, once in a while, like when we start the Nigerian Info, I beg to differ debate, I would say those are exceptions to the rule. For the majority, especially for public institutions, the quality of our education is in tatters. It's serious tatters, such that parents now would prefer for their kids to go to private institutions, and even in those private institutions, there's still grades.
There's a lot of imbalances.
There's some that we call otakara.
Informa, why?
Bro, I'm experienced in this field. Don't worry. As a former teacher, I understand. I totally understand all of this. But the bottom line again remains that in whatever we do in this issue, it should come with a bit of human face. If as a proprietor, I know that Omamegbe pays his children's school fees as at when due, he's not a defaulter. If for any reason there's a term where he hasn't paid, most times, it's the duty of the proprietor to actually call, ask, is everything okay? Sometimes some parents are also too shy or too embarrassed.
I think that's the word.
To explain and to tell the owners of the school what exactly they are going through. Especially if you're someone who's just falling from grace to grass. You're a well-to-do person. Maybe not necessarily rich or wealthy, but you're okay.
Yes, that's grace itself.
Exactly, and something just happens, and you are struggling. You're even struggling to eat. That's another problem. If you're struggling to even feed your children, I'm sorry, paying school fees will not be the least of your worries. If you're struggling to buy garri for them to drink with groundnuts, paying school fees of 30, 40 or 50,000 or whatever the school fees is. Well, that's for wealthy people.
Yeah, but I
talk my own level.
No, but see, I agree with what you're saying, because we have had people. I remember back in my secondary school, there were students who we had towards our later years who came from then the very legendary Igbeneghu Educational Center back in those states, right? Who came from those schools, right? And had to come and join us in our, nonsense and green check.
Because life happened to their parents. Exactly. Life happened to their parents.
And when they even got there, guess what? They still couldn't pay.
See, life happens. Again, I always use my story and growing up as examples. My father was a customs officer. He was a typical Nigerian civil servant, who was not rich,
but was comfortable,
but was okay. At least he could provide our basic needs. He could buy us clothes, and all of that. But it got to a point in our lives in the 90s when things became a bit rough, became a bit tight. My mom too, who was a seamstress at the time. In fact, I would even argue my mom was making more money than my dad, so was helping to augment whatever it was dad was getting from the civil service rather. And I don't know whether to say fortunately or unfortunately, my dad was not the typical customs officer. The typical Nigerian customs officer is wealthy.
They see things.
Now you make of that what you wish. It's not me that we hear. But my dad was straight and narrow.
Yeah.
To the point where even us growing up, we used to quote unquote yab him like, see your mates. But he was strict. He was straight jacketed. So he only depended on whatever he got legally. Do you understand? So between his salaries, and mom, we were okay. But it got to a point where mom's business nosedived, and it that effect for a number of years. Bro, by the time I finished secondary school in 1997. Because of some issues, my result was not good. I had to resit. But I couldn't resit WAEC the next year, 1998, because I couldn't pay. I had to wait until 1999, before I registered for GC and all of that. This is my own personal story. So sometimes life happens. It's not that these parents don't want to pay, but make I chop first before I think of school fees.
Make we chop first before we think of school fees. But what then should be the answer? What then is the way forward? We have schools, whether in the tertiary, whether at the tertiary level or the secondary, at all levels, who have rules and regulations. They have warnings. And sometimes, let's be fair, students, particularly in the university, here in River State, in recent years, have cried out and said the school shouldn't carry out this measure. They shouldn't prevent them from writing examinations. At best, they should let them write or give them their results at a much later date, or even don't give them their certificates. To these, the schools have said in some instances, we will not, because those same teachers, those same lecturers that you want to give you the very best also have children like your children. We have now reached, as it were, an impasse. What say you, ladies and gentlemen? What is the way forward? 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003, 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003. We have a WhatsApp number that can also receive your SMSs. So don't feel bad if you do not have a WhatsApp-enabled device. The number is 0809-030-6416. And as always, please follow us on Facebook and X with the handle @NigeriaInfoPH. Watch us live and interact with us.
The views and opinions shared on this program do not represent the position of Nigeria Info FM. Nigeria Info, let's talk.
With Jude on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
Enzo's in Rumumasi, and we have Zion standing by in GRA. Enzo, good morning to you. You have 2 minutes, please.
Good morning.
Good morning, please.
Yeah, my name is Enzo. I'm calling from Rumumasi.
Welcome.
Yeah, first thing first, the government needs to help Nigerians. In the Constitution, education should be free from primary to primary level. Let me speak for Anambra State. Like in Anambra State today, education is free from primary to secondary level. There is no hidden levy. You can never hear in Anambra today, ever since the emergence of Soludo, you can never hear that a child was sent back home because of school fees. No hidden charge. Students don't pay a kobo again, unlike before. Prior to the emergence of Soludo, they'll tell you no school fees. But principals will connive with some people in the community school, and they'll start extorting money from students. But right now in Anambra, no school fees, no hidden level whatsoever. Nothing like PTA level, nothing like end of year party. You don't hear that. You can never hear that in Anambra again. So let us come and put an end to that extortion of poor parents in Anambra State. Then as for punishing students, any teacher who lays his or her filthy hand on a student should be arrested and locked up. The best the school would do is to talk to the parents. If you don't have money to pay school fees, advise the parents not to send their kids to school. Simple as ABCD.
All right, Enzo Rumas, thank you very much. Zion's on the line from GRA. Zion, good morning to you.
It
2
is
minutes.
out of ignorance.
Ignorance.
That is why we ask for school fees from students. Ignorance. And we are criminally minded. Go and study nations that they don't charge school fees from their citizens. Go and check how they are doing. 10% crime rate, some 5% crime rate, some even 2% crime rate. What is the crime rate? 2 fighting. But come here, and we charge for money. See, look at us. The reason I decided to go into...
Zion, please call back if you can. Apologies. Let's read some messages now, Ufoma. This one here says, good morning, Oga Jude. I want to use this opportunity to thank my parents for everything they did for me. Throughout my school days, I never owed school fees or lacked school supplies. Everything I needed was also provided on or before resumption. This continued until my university days up to 200 level when I began paying my fees myself. Mayor Kinsley from Wuse 2 in Abuja. Once again, good morning to you, Abuja guys. I always find it interesting that Abuja people always come to Port Harcourt to join us. But yes, Ufoma, this is a rarity. Somebody whose parents throughout his life never defaulted.
Rarity. Okay.
No, if we compare to the larger population, because let's be honest.
Okay, in that sense,
yes. If we look at those days when private schools started, how many students were in private schools? More people were in
government schools because to a large extent the government schools, you could argue, were better than the private institutions at the time. But it's good that someone acknowledges the efforts of their parents. I do too. It's one thing I would be forever grateful to my parents, my mom, my dad and my mom. Like I did say, at a point in time when things got tough, my mom ensured that, like, she literally did everything she could, including selling her jewelry, selling her clothes. I'm telling you, like, literally, all these George models material. My mom had like boxes of them. At a point, she started selling all. In fact, it got to a point where she sold all but one or two.
Oh,
yeah, just to ensure that myself and my younger ones went to school, and every one of us finished, from tertiary institution. Whatever we are today, myself and my other 5 siblings, it's kudos to first my dad, and then ultimately, when things got really bad, my mom. Because you cannot underestimate the value of education. It's not just about going to learn that matter is a space. No, you see, passing through the 4 walls of a school, primary, secondary school, and university, it teaches you a lot of things. It teaches you how to deal with life, how to be able to move around circles, how to build relationships. That's why some people spend all that tons of money to send their children to the very best of schools where the politicians have their children, all of that. Because to a large extent, sometimes it's not that thing you learn in class that will end up making you who you eventually are. It could be the relationship you have that you built from secondary school. That's what will help your secondary school classmate becomes, for example, the governor of Rivers State, and you've been friends since your secondary school days. There's a high possibility that you get something. Now, I'm not trying to say or trying to project the fact that nepotism is the way to go, but let's not try to kid ourselves. Even in developed countries, these things happen. You get some favors, you get some little blessings here and there, all because of your relationships with the powers that be. Bottom line is, for any parent right now listening to Nigeria Info, we pray that things will continue to get better irrespective of the situation Nigeria has found itself, so that they'll be able to foot the education bills, off their words. Because trust me, there's no better gift ensuring that you give them proper education.
08179230002, 08179230003, 08179230002, 08179230003. At Nigeria Info PH, at Nigeria Info PH is where you find us on Facebook and X. At Nigeria Info PH is where you find us on Facebook and on X. Amy Billions on Facebook says the best way is installment plans for school fees payment.
That's another way to go. That's absolutely another way to go, because sometimes you're waiting for lump money to come, and it doesn't come. Usually I once in a while I do that sometimes. If it's a bit of a struggle, you pay for, I have 2 kids. I pay for 1 child now. Usually first terms you spend more money.
Yeah.
You're paying for new books, and all of that.
Yeah.
So sometimes if I'm unable to do all of the payment at once, I probably pay 60-70% of the monies, hoping that by the end of the month when salaries come, I'll pay the rest. Or you could develop a plan, say 3-4 times payment plan. The term is usually 3 months. You could have that conversation with the proprietor to say, okay, at the end of the month I'm paying 30%, and the end of the next month I'm paying another 30%. The final month I'll pay the remaining one. That's a good one.
Mrs. Zion, welcome back. Thank you for your patience, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jude. If not for the concern of what this discourse is, I will not join again. Now, what parents can do? Can we start pulling our children out of private schools? 5-10 parents who are paying 50,000 naira. Can you take your children back to government school and be committed with 30,000 naira to the principal of that government school.
But how would that translate to the quality?
I'm coming. Hold on first.
Okay.
And work with the principal to get the teachers trained and be retrained for the benefit of your kids that are there. To redecorate the classroom and through the influence of the PTA, set up policies and structure that should guide the kids to other children. Can you do that? To save your head from these 200,000, 500,000? Because the reason most parents take their children to these private and high-cost schools, one is pride. My begin the school for social school. Number two, this selfish and wicked reason, build connection with the high and mighty. Are we normal at all when I reason like this?
But Zion, why don't we focus? Why don't we focus more on the public spaces and ask government to make it better?
Which government? Are they educated enough? If they're educated enough, should we be paying school fees? If they have the right mind for your children, should they ask you to pay school fees? In my opening note, I told you, go study nations that they don't pay school fees.
So I slightly disagree, on some of the points Zion made. Yes, I do agree that there's a certain percentage of people who put their words in schools just because of ego or just to show
the status symbol.
Or a status symbol. Yes, I agree, but that's a negligent percentage. One of the bigger reason why most people prefer private institutions is because the government schools themselves are not good enough. Let's not try and distract from the real reason. We've seen one of the things we said in the beginning of this conversation. We've seen the deterioration of public institutions
in this country
consistently, over the years. And what we have right now is not something that just happened overnight. It started happening a long time ago. Sometimes I usually joke that my set, set was the last set that benefited. I usually say that. But seriously speaking, though, while I agree with Zion that there's a certain percentage of people who take their children to schools because of ego and symbolism and all of that, the larger reason is because the government schools themselves have not been good enough.
Maureen is on the line from Enika. Good morning to you, Maureen. Welcome to the conversation.
Good morning, Mr. Jude.
Good morning, please.
In my former school, my children's school, there's a man that came to the principal's office asking for half payment for one of the children.
Yes.
The principal asked the man, is the child half?
Ow.
Do you understand? So this thing, we parents should face the reality. The economy is hard. We should reduce the number of children we are giving birth to. And again,
totally
the
agree.
government should also help to fix the private schools and make it a free school from nursery to secondary, just like Governor of Anambra State. It should be free. Then, if you don't want to go to public school, reduce the number of children you give birth to so that you'll be able to pay for the school fees.
I agree. Totally.
Thank you.
You see this conversation. This is a conversation we honestly, seriously need to have in this country, where people, especially in the northern part of the country, we in the south, we have our own issues. But you see, the security challenge. Sorry, I'm about to deviate a bit. But one of the reasons we have the kind of security challenges we have in the north is what Maureen just talked about, where we're not controlling our population. People are just giving birth to children just for the sake of giving birth. So you see, I know that certain religions permit it, and this is not a religious conversation, but we also need to understand the reality. How can someone who doesn't have the means get married to 4 different wives and have 30 children, and you're expecting one uncle or one brother or one sister somewhere to take care of your children? And if I come down south here, some of us down south here, what we do is make we just dey born. No worry, the children are blessing. Now, you know that.
Yeah.
I agree, children are a blessing. but also that blessing also comes from you. You should be wise enough to know that for every child you give birth to is a 20-year or 21-year investment. 21 years of your life are gone.
Okay, let me stop you there. Let me read this message. This one says, Ufuma said it all. It's all about strategy, installment pays, etc., and of course having a good relationship with the school.
And for that school that the principal said, I'm sorry, that principal is an idiot. I'm sorry. No. In fact, I'm not even sorry to call that principal an idiot, because if you live in this country and understand the economic situation, you will not say no to that kind of strategy.
We'll be back after this break.